In the quiet moments, that's where I'll find a little room to breathe, leave it all behind. Give me room to breathe, I need some time to heal my heart, to clear my mind. Gonna love myself, yeah, I believe in the power of me. Just give me room to breathe.
Great new day to all my self-care family and friends. Welcome back to another episode of the Room2Breathe Podcast. I am your host, Life Coach 614, and I am so happy that you made space to be here with us today. Now, before we get into today's episode, do me a quick favor. If you're feeling the vibe, go ahead and show us some love. Tap that screen, like, comment, but most importantly, please share this out with someone else who could use a little healing energy today. And if this is your first time here or you haven't done so already, give us a follow, subscribe to our channel, so that way you're always tapped in when a new episode drops. And I want to also personally invite each and every one of you to check out our digital home at theselfcareclub.org. There you will find everything you need for your healing journey, from affirmative apparel to motivational merch and a lot of free resources, that are designed to help nourish your growth and remind you that you are supported every step of the way. Just know that you don't have to do this alone. We are healing in community, growing one breath, one moment, one day at a time. So please give yourself permission to pause, to reflect, and to make space for peace, for growth, but most importantly, space for you. And remember, if anything in today's episode hits home, be sure to, drop a green heart in the chat. That's our community's way of saying I'm healing, I'm growing, and I'm showing up for me. Now, let's get ready to breathe, reflect, and grow together. I want to take this opportunity to say thank you to all of you who are here this morning. Brooks, to answer your question, yes, it should be live over there on Facebook now. You can also catch us on YouTube as well as TikTok. So wherever you are listening from, thank you for being here today. Feel free to engage on any of those platforms. We do see your comments. We have admins and moderators who are also available in the event that I miss a comment. So I want to thank you guys all in advance, like I said, for being here, for tapping the screen, for just keeping the conversation going, gifting, all of the amazing things that you guys do. So thank you so much. All right, guys, so let's get into it. Today, I wanted to talk about codependency and rediscovery. Voodoo Queen, welcome in. Like I said, codependency and rediscovery. Here lately, I've just been, I've just kind of been intrigued by, how love, addiction, validation, and people pleasing can strip your sense of self, right? And so today I just thought it would be a good topic, to talk about, and to give us something to reflect on, when we're thinking about who are we when we're not who they need us to be. You know what I mean? Like, I think that at a certain point in life, we all experience some sort of disappearing act, right? And so that's what I want to talk about today. It's like a quiet type of identity theft. You know what I mean? I'm going to talk about the one that ruins your credit score, but the one that slowly drains your confidence. Have you ever looked back and realized that you've become the person that they liked? Welcome in, LaShonda. Right? Not the person that you love being, but the person that they liked. You laugh softer. You dress differently. You speak less. You stop doing the things that lit you up because being too much started feeling like it was a liability instead of a light, right? That's the kind of identity theft that nobody warns us about. Sometimes, we call it love, right? But I think that sometimes what we're really chasing is belonging. right? Everybody wants to be seen. Everybody wants to be heard. So we say we're out here searching for love, but really I think we're just searching for a place to belong. And so this episode is going to be for the ones who learn love through performance. For those who kept editing themselves to simply be chosen. I think that it's time that we reclaim our reflection. So let's just start by talking about the psychology of losing yourself. Codependency isn't just about being clingy. It's about being conditioned, right? It's not born out of weakness. It's something that's born out of survival. We learned very early on that love wasn't something that you received freely. It was something that you had to earn, right? Hey, Maceo. Every smile, every gold star, every I'm proud of you came with some sort of invisible contract. Something that we had to do. It was attached to, be good, stay quiet, don't cause too much trouble, don't need too much, don't do too much, right? Thank you. And so for some of us, love came through responsibility. You were the little adult of the house, right? You were the one who learned how to cook, and you were cleaning and meditating and fixing. So you were praised for how well you were holding it all together. But nobody ever asked you how heavy it was for you to carry all of that. For other people, love came through silence, right? You learned that peace in the house meant that you needed to shrink yourself, that you had to keep the noise down, hide the tears. Welcome in, Tracy. And, it all of a sudden just became your responsibility to make sure that everybody else was okay, even if you weren't, right? Transcendent entity, welcome in. But you guys, that's not love, okay? That's emotional labor disguised as loyalty. It's not love. So, when you grow up, that conditioning follows you into your relationships, right? You find comfort in chaos because it feels familiar. You overgive because you fear being forgotten. You confuse control with care. And it's like time and time again, you keep auditioning for love. Like it's a role that you have to win instead of a right that you already have. It becomes your subconscious script, right? You tell yourself, if I make them happy, I'll finally be safe. If I keep the peace, they won't leave me. If I love them hard enough, maybe, just maybe, they'll see my worth. But that's not safety. That's self-sacrifice, all decked up and, dressed up as in survival, because again, that's what we had to do to survive then. That's love with a leash, and that leash is tied to your own identity. And the hardest part about this is that it works for a while, right? Because you get the praise, you get the approval, you get the attention, the temporary highs that go with enoughness. But eventually you look up and you realize that you've built a life that fits them, but not you. It's like you've suddenly realized that you've mastered the art of being chosen, but you forgot the beauty in choosing yourself. Because, at its core, codependency is the slow erosion of self underneath all the weight of being needed. It's when your love turns into a job, and no matter how much you give, the check never clears. And so the healing begins the moment that you realize that you were never supposed to earn love. You were just supposed to experience it. And the version of you that believes otherwise, again, he or she deserves compassion, not criticism. We're not here, to condemn. We're not here to make you feel bad because you just didn't know any better. Because what you did was what you had to do to survive then. but now you get to learn how to live on your own terms. And we talk all the time about the mask of the strong one, right? All of these masks that we have to, navigate through and peel back the layers to determine, is this me or is this just yet another mask? Is this just another role that I've, unintentionally signed up for? So let's talk about the mask that smiles through pain, or the one that fixes everything and swears that, he or she is fine, and knowing that they're really falling apart on the inside. Can anybody identify with that mask? The one, the strong one, the rock, the dependable one. That's the one that everybody leans on, even when you have no one to lean on for you. Over the years, we've learned that being the strong one looks admirable on the outside, but it is exhausting on the inside. Because strength, when it's rooted in trauma, it isn't empowering, right? That strength that's rooted in trauma is just protection. It's just survival. You're right. It is difficult to take off, but not impossible. My sis says she came prepared. You got them steel toe boots on today? Okay. Like, you ready? Because we running low on supplies with the first aid kit. Because I feel like I've been on one this week, y'all. But somewhere along the line, we learned that vulnerability was dangerous. I see my sis said the mask only comes off in the dark. And again, that's because we learned that vulnerability is dangerous. So we feel like we have to hide it, right? We've been conditioned to believe that our tears are weakness, that silence was safety. Okay. And, over the years, while you were surviving, you've built this emotional fortress. I said forest, y'all. This fortress, right? And, we've taken the time over the years to build it brick by brick, boundary by boundary, right? Not to keep others out, but to keep ourselves from falling apart. Over the years, we've become the fixer, the problem solver, the one who everybody can depend on to hold it down. You learn how to anticipate other people's needs before anybody even asks. You knew how to read the room, de-escalate the tension, and keep the peace, even if it meant sacrificing your own. Voodoo Queen said, I wore my mask for so long I didn't know who I was without it. I think we can all admit to being there. You done built a forest too? That's where you hide? I know that's right, honey. But if you know me, Tracy, I'm notorious to go on a bear hunt, honey. So I'm going to see you in the forest and we're going to get right on through it. What's up, Sweet Pea? Hey, Kale. Thank you for the heart me. So whether it's a fortress or a forest, honey, over the years, we done built some things so we can hide, right? Hide who we really are. And, the funny thing about it is, over the years, people have praised us for that, right? They said when you were younger that you were mature, right? They called you resilient. They said, I don't know what I would do without you. And I be thinking to myself, probably the same thing I'm doing without me. Struggling, right? But here's the truth that I feel like not enough people are talking about. And it's the fact that being needed and being nurtured are not the same thing. Okay? Being needed and being nurtured are not the same thing. And, you can be surrounded by people who depend on you and still feel deeply alone. Because when you're the strong person, people tend to forget that you're human. Love is to be experienced, not earned. Yes, absolutely. People constantly come to you for advice, for comfort, for consistency. But who shows up when you need to collapse? right? What do they say? Who treks on the strong one? Who holds the strong one when he or she can't keep it together themselves? It's like the problem is when your identity is tied to being reliable, you start to equate rest with weakness. You don't know how to be loved without being useful. You don't know how to receive without reciprocating. You don't know how to just be without performing. That's the mask, right? The performance of strength. And you wear it so well that people forget you're wearing it at all. And after a while, you forget that there's still a person underneath this mask. Until the mask cracks under pressure. And eventually, all of them do, right? Yours will too. You'll find yourself in a moment where your body screams enough. When the tears that you swallowed for years demand to be felt. When the weight of carrying everyone else finally, brings you to your knees. And that breakdown, that breakdown is not weakness. It's a release. It's your soul saying, I don't want to be the strong one anymore. I just want to be. Can anybody else admit that you just want to be? And let that be the end of the sentence. It's not like when we were younger and we said, when I grow up, I want to be this. I want to be that. At this point in my life, honey, I'm just like, I just want to be. Period. End of sentence. Exclamation. I just want to be. Be what? Me. I just want to be. Right? Therapy has taught me that I don't have to earn rest. That I don't have to apologize for needing help. I don't have to prove my worth through how much I can handle. Real strength isn't what you carry, it's what you choose to put down. And I'm going to say that again because I need y'all to hear this. Real strength is not how much you carry. It's not the load that you carry at all. Real strength is in what you choose to put down. So listen to me. If you are the strong one, if you've been the glue that has kept everyone else together, this is your reminder that even the glue gets tired. Even the strongest one deserves softness. Because strength without softness is survival. No fear, no doubt. Welcome in, bro. Right? And, you were created for more than that. You were created to live free, not to live fatigued. Okay? But we've got to start to really address the love that we've obtained from the wounded places. There's a certain kind of love that feels like healing, but really comes from hunger, right? It's the love that you crave, that makes you crave closeness so badly that you mistake attention for affection, validation for value, or attachment for intimacy. You tell yourself, I just love hard. But deep down, what you're really saying is, I don't know who I am without someone to love. That's love from a wounded place. It's not love that grows. It's love that constantly is grasping at you, grasping for your attention, begging to be seen, right? It's the kind of love that pours and performs, hoping that maybe, just maybe this time, the giving will be enough to keep them from leaving. You constantly are overextending, over explaining, over apologizing because you're terrified of being abandoned again. And without realizing it, you start chasing people who remind you of the ones who hurt you. You replay the same story over and over again with different characters, trying to rewrite the ending that broke you. You think, maybe if I love them better, than I was loved, I'll finally be enough. But the painful truth when we think about this kind of love is that you can't outlove your own emptiness. No amount of effort will fill the void that comes from not feeling worthy on your own. Your worth should not be attached to any other person. Your happiness, your joy should not be dependent upon another person. That is a joy and a love that should come from within. Right? So no amount of effort can fill that void. Nobody can love you the way that you're desiring to be loved when you don't even love you that way. Trey's mom, welcome in, beautiful. Hey, Monique. Because that's what this kind of love really is, right? A mirror of unhealed parts of us that's begging to be seen, right? Just begging to be seen. You're not loving freely. You're loving fearfully. You're loving with your wounds wide open, hoping that somebody else will bandage them when you're not even willing to face them. You haven't even checked it out. And then every time they pull away, what happens is it just reopens the scar. It just reopens the wound. This is how love turns into addiction. Not because you're weak, but because you've confused, intensity with intimacy. Right? Because the high feels euphoric and the lows feel devastating. So you swing between the two and you call it passion. But that's not passion. It's pain disguised as purpose. And when that person finally leaves you, because eventually they do, it's not just heartbreak that you feel, right? Now you're also left to grieve with the version of yourself you built around them. You're not just missing them, you're missing you too. Because you put your joy and your happiness and you attached it to that person. And so now that person is gone, you feel lost. The parts of you that you tried to bury, all of those parts that you hid, in secrecy while you were trying to be loved, those things then come back up to the surface. And I think that the scariest part of loving from a wounded place is that it really can look like love. It looks like commitment. It looks like loyalty. It looks like devotion. Welcome back, Rick. But despite what it looks like, it feels like depletion. Because it's rooted in fear, not faith. When you love from emptiness, you attach instead of connect. You tolerate instead of thrive. You settle instead of soar. It's like you stay, but not because it's safe. You stay because it's familiar. I've been here before. I know this pain. And so I'm just going to stay. Right? Thank you so much. Not a problem, Rick. We thank you so much for being here. And just in case you don't know, you can always go over to YouTube and catch the replay for the podcast. So you're never really missing out on anything. But yeah, so we tend to stay in these situations because it feels safe, because it feels familiar. But familiar pain can trick you into believing that it's passion. Familiar chaos can convince you that it's chemistry. Exactly, until it suffocates you, right? That familiar rejection that we all know, that can make you chase repair instead of actually reflecting and doing the work. Welcome in, Chris. This your first time here. I'm glad to see you, bro. But hear me, guys. Healing doesn't happen through repetition, okay? It happens through revelation. Through the moment that you finally stop and realize that this isn't love. This is a lesson, right? Once you realize that it's not love and that it's a lesson, that's the moment where everything in your life will shift. When you stop asking, why didn't they love me right? And you start asking, why did I think I had to earn it? Like, why didn't I love me right? You know what I mean? As my sis said, that's the moment that you recognize you've been the villain in your own story. I had that moment in my life, you know, before I got married, when I was dating. Yeah, I used to be like, oh my God, I can't believe that he would treat me like that. Run off into another relationship. Oh my God, I can't believe he would treat me like that. And why don't they love me? And then I get into another relationship, and it was just like a never ending cycle. And finally I was like, okay, listen, like, you know how they be having the board, when they be having all the suspects on the board and they trying to figure out who done it, right? So I had to like lay out everybody to be like, okay, who done it? Who hurt me? And all roads pointed to me. And y'all, I was pissed because I was pointing the finger like, he did this, he did that, he did this. And I didn't realize how many fingers was pointing back at me. I had to recognize that I was the common denominator, that it was me. I didn't love me enough, so they couldn't love me enough. It was impossible because, you know, we teach people how to love us, right? We teach people by how we love ourselves, how we show up for ourselves. And so I had to learn that it was less about why didn't he love me? Why couldn't they love me? It was more about, why haven't I been loving on me? Why haven't I been nice to me? Because sometimes, you know, the healing isn't getting love back. It's actually just reclaiming the love that you kept giving away too easily. Hey, Coach Brown. I started noticing that I would give more love to people that they couldn't reciprocate it. You know, a lot of my exes, they weren't even taught how to love. You know, they were raised in dysfunction. So it was unfair for me to expect them to love me in the capacity that I desired when that was foreign to them. It's like we were speaking two different languages. Clearly, we were not equally yoked, right? So we've got to begin to understand that it's more so about us learning to fill our own cups up. So that way we'll never be, you know, never confuse being needed and being nurtured. Each and every one of you deserve love that feels like rest, not rescue. A love that flows, not forces. Each and every one of you deserve a love that reminds you of your wholeness, not the love that just constantly exposes your wounds. So I'm hoping today is a wake-up call, right? And, you know, the thing about a wake-up call is that it doesn't always come in the form of some dramatic ending or some loud argument. Sometimes it's just quiet. It's holy, right? It's the kind of silence that hums inside your chest when you finally stop pretending that you're okay. When you finally have the courage to say, I'm not okay. And the willingness to admit, I haven't been okay for a while now. For me, it was one of those, you know, nights when exhaustion felt heavier than heartbreak. Y'all know me. I was sitting in my car because that's where it usually happens for me. I was sitting in my car after another conversation that had left me unseen. The radio was off, the air was thick, and I can remember the only thing that I could hear was my own heartbeat. But it wasn't like a calming heartbeat. It was fast and anxious, and I was tired. I remember gripping the steering wheel and realizing that at that exact moment, I didn't even know what I wanted anymore. Every thought that crossed my mind started with them. What can I do to make them happy? What could I do to make him stay? What version of me do I need to be this time? Who do I need to become? I had the role, the master of disguise role down pat. I knew exactly what I needed to say, what I needed to do, how I needed to act, how I needed to dress, how I should do my hair, like all of these things. But in that moment, it hit me like a gut punch that I had built my entire sense of worth around other people's comfort. I wasn't living, I was auditioning for a role that I didn't even want. And in that moment, sitting in the car, y'all, that's when the tears came. And I literally remember this moment, you guys, like it was yesterday. I sat in my car and I cried. Right? And it was just like this quiet, this quiet calm. It wasn't like a big dramatic situation. I mean, heck, it was just me in the car, right? But it was this quiet kind that, comes from the deepest part of your soul. Because I wasn't just crying over a relationship ending. I was grieving the person that I used to be before I started betraying myself for other people's love. You see, the wake up call isn't about leaving them, right? It's about realizing that you left yourself a long time ago. And that grief is scary. For me, it was like the first honest emotion that I had allowed myself to feel in a long time. It was the sound of my soul whispering, finally, right? Finally, you're listening. It was that moment for me when the mask slipped off and I could see the exhaustion in my own eyes. And from that moment forward, pretending became unbearable. And when the silence that you once feared becomes the peace that you crave, things just hit differently. And sometimes God doesn't expose people to hurt you. He exposes them to heal you. It's like he allows the relationships to crumble so that way you can finally confront the truth that you were loving from a place of emptiness and you were calling it commitment. That's when you realize that love was never meant to cost you. And that's the moment where you understand, that I deserve love too. Loving you should not cost me. And once you understand that, everything changes. You stop fighting for the version of love that breaks you. You stop begging people to meet you, at the depth that you're afraid to drown in. You stop thinking that closure is something that you have to give, because it's not. Because real closure comes when you can look in the mirror and say, I'm done betraying myself. That's the wake up call. That's the pivot point where survival turns into self-awareness, where you finally hear your own heartbeat and realize that it's been calling you home all along. That moment, the one where you choose yourself, even if your hands are trembling, and you realize that what just happened is not the end of the story. That was the beginning of my next chapter. But we've got to get over this ride or die mentality, right? I think that this is one of the most toxic myths that we've ever been sold. Okay? Ride or die. We wear that like a badge of honor. When we say, oh, that's my ride or die, that means I'm loyal. I hold my people down. I don't give up easily. I'm dependable. I'm always there. I always got your back no matter what. But somewhere along the way, that loyalty turns into labor. It becomes a thing that we have to do, right? We started confusing endurance with devotion. We suddenly mistook suffering for strength. And we called it love when really it was just survival dressed up as sacrifice. You see, ride or die sounds romantic until you realize that you've been the only person riding and you're the one that's actually slowly dying. We grew up with that down for whatever kind of love, right? We saw it in songs and movies and our family patterns. We watched our elders stay no matter what, right? When you bring something up that you're going through, right? Especially, oh gosh, I can remember talking about my relationship that I was in, and I was experiencing domestic violence. And they're like, you just have to love them through it. What? You got to hold them down while they figure it out. He just going through a rough patch. No, baby, he just dragging me through these rough patches. What are you talking about? But while they over there figuring it out, you know what I'm saying? I was forgetting myself. While I was over here showing him grace, I was forgetting myself. I suddenly became the anchor, and I stopped being there for me, right? Because I had to love him through it. You find yourself showing up time and time again, not because they deserve it, because most of the time they don't, right? But you do so because leaving feels like betrayal, because you equate loyalty with longevity, right? Not reciprocity. But love was never meant to make you a martyr. You can't keep calling it loyalty when in reality it is self-abandonment. Sometimes the most radical form of love that you can give someone is space, distance. Sometimes the real riding is you walking away before the crash. Because here's what a ride or die never tells you. Okay? You're not supposed to die there. You're supposed to grow there. You're supposed to learn there. You're supposed to love there without losing yourself in the process. So the days of me wanting to be somebody's ride or die are over, baby, because I fought too hard to live. I done came too far to give up now. So I don't want to be a ride or die. I don't even like how that sounds anymore. It just sounds crazy. Right? If, loyalty costs you your peace, then it's not loyalty, it's bondage. You can't keep saving people who are committed to sinking. You can't keep holding hands with someone who, just makes it a point to keep pulling you into the fire. And you have the audacity to call it warmth. That's just how they love. Right? Real love doesn't require you to burn yourself to keep somebody else warm. Real love requires balance. It requires boundaries. It requires mutual effort and respect. Because love isn't proven through pain. It's proven through peace. And I want you guys to hear me clearly when I say this. Letting go doesn't mean that you didn't love them deeply. It means that you finally love yourself enough to choose more, to want more. And when I say that you choose to love yourself enough, I'm talking about enough to stop confusing consistency with chemistry. Enough to stop mistaking chaos for connection. Enough to realize that staying small in someone else's story doesn't make you loyal. It makes you lost. Sometimes riding or dying isn't about the relationship at all. It's about the part of you that still believes that love has to hurt to be real. It's the part that needs your healing the most. So this time, choose differently. Choose peace over pressure. Choose freedom over fear. Choose to ride for you. Because baby, if I'm going on a trip, it got to be for me, okay? So I'm a ride, but I'm a ride for me. Because the truth is, you don't need to be anybody's ride or die. Right? You deserve to be somebody's peace and live. That's what I want to be. I want to be my husband's peace and live, right? Till death does us part. Okay? Thank you so much. So yeah, I think it's time that we all do some mirror work. Again, not to shame ourselves, but to really just reflect what it is that we're doing. How we're showing up for ourselves, right? Mirror work is when the real healing begins, when the real hiding ends. And nobody really talks about it, because anybody who's really done some shadow work knows that, baby, you're going to go through it. Okay? That shadow work is the sacred, uncomfortable moment when you finally stop running from your reflection and you start asking it questions. Because baby, like me and my shadow, honey, we like this. When she show up, I'll be like, hey girl, what you need? What I do? Right? You know how your parents used to look at you and then you just be like, what I do? What happened? That's how me and my shadow get down now. Because I know that, it's just here to show me something. Yes. Facing yourself is everything, Cindy. Welcome in. And it's not about vanity. It's about vulnerability. Because the hardest person to face is the one who tolerated so much just to be loved. No problem. You're fine. You can rent in and out as much as you want. We still love you, girl. But listen, guys, the mirror doesn't lie. All right. So if you're looking in the mirror and you see something ugly, well, just know that it's time for you to clean it up, to fix it, to make it better. Because the mirror shows you what your smile has been trying to hide. The mirror reflects every single I'm fine that wasn't true. And some days it feels like it's staring straight through your soul and saying, sis, when did you forget who you were? How could you forget whose you were? I remember when I first started doing my mirror work, y'all. When I say I couldn't even look myself in the eye, it felt like I was looking at a stranger. A woman who had spent years holding everyone else together. But I did not know what to do to hold myself. And it was scary. I remember I had bought the shadow work journal, y'all. Y'all know what I'm talking about. If y'all on TikTok, y'all done seen this shadow work journal on the timeline. I bought the journal, y'all. I got the cards. Kale, you remember? Look, Kale sent me the cards, y'all. I got the book, I got the cards, I got it all. And I kept carrying it around in my purse for so long. And I had opened it and I had got to that first page and I was like, oh, hell no. Yeah, I ain't doing this. I was so afraid. Yeah. Like I said, I couldn't even look at myself because I felt like I was a stranger in my own body, that I just didn't even recognize who I was. And I realized that I had become fluent in other people's needs and silent in my own language. You guys know how, like, with a foreign language, they say if you don't use it, you'll lose it, right? I took Spanish in high school for 4 years. I was on the National Hispanic Honor Society. And y'all can barely get a buenos dias out of me. Never learned how to roll my tongue. I can understand a little better, but I can't speak it, right? But when I was doing my shadow work, I recognized that I lacked boundaries, that I had no clue of what self-care was. I had no clue of who I was. I would say things to myself. People would say, oh, speak life over yourself. Well, you got to get in the same language, right? And I had been silent in my own language for so long that I couldn't even understand what I was talking about. So I stayed small. I looked at myself every single morning and whispered things that I didn't believe yet. I looked in the mirror and I told myself, because I got to do my affirmations and I got to set intentions, and I didn't necessarily believe it yet. But I looked in my mirror every single day and I said, I'm proud of you. Didn't exactly know why. Felt like it was kind of a joke. But I was like, I'm proud of you. You are worthy. You don't have to earn rest. You are still enough. Even when you're not producing, even when you're not pleasing, even when you're not performing. And if don't nobody else love you, girl, I love you. And I would say it every single morning. And day one, it felt weird. But day like 100, I was like, hey girl, hey, I see you. I'm proud of you. Okay, I see you still got a little work to do, but it's cool because you've been doing the work. I see you. Right? So all of a sudden, the language that I started speaking started making sense. I didn't have to just read it off of a piece of paper. Right? Somebody suggested, hey, try these affirmations. So I was just reading them in the beginning. Day one, I was like, I love myself. I'm proud of me. I am worthy. I am whole. I don't have to earn rest. Like, it was so scripted. But then again, after a while, I started speaking my own language again. Right? I can say to myself, hey girl, hey, honey, you are enough. You've always been enough. You will always be enough. Right? That's what mirror work does. It reintroduces you to the parts of yourself that you abandon. Right? In the process of my shadow work, y'all, I found the girl who used to dance just because music felt good to her. I found the woman who used to dream without doubting her potential. The soul that used to glow before life dimmed my light. Mirror work teaches you to see you. You're right. It is the most amazing thing. 10 out of 10 recommend, y'all. Okay? It teaches you to see you, not the version that other people have demanded, not the one that you performed, but the one who actually survived it all. It's standing in your truth without filters. It's saying I love you before the world gives you permission to do so. Because for so long, you've loved people who couldn't love you back. You fought for relationships that required you to forget your own reflection. You've been told you're too much, when in reality, you were just with people who weren't enough for your magnitude. So now the healing work is to unlearn what those mirrors of rejection taught you, to replace the lies with love, to look at yourself and finally say, I see you, not who they wanted you to be, but I see you for who you truly are. And when you do that, I'm telling you, the energy shifts. Okay? You start walking into rooms softer, but stronger. You start setting boundaries that don't require explanation. Because the man or the woman, in the mirror finally feels safe. You feel safe to be you. You feel free to be you, to just be. And, that's the transformation, where your reflection stops reminding you of who you were, and it starts becoming the vision of the person that you're becoming. We've all had the moment, and some of us are still having the moment where we look in the mirror and all we can see is our past mistakes. Where you look in the mirror and you can see every relationship that broke you down. But when you start doing the shadow work, you move past that. You move through that. And then when you look in the mirror, you see who you are becoming. You begin to understand that self-love isn't about perfection. It's more about presence. It's not about avoiding your flaws. It's about embracing your fullness, flaws and all. So I hope that you take this podcast as your mirror moment. Go stand in front of it today. No makeup, no filters, no pretending, just you. Raw, real, ready to reclaim. Look at yourself in the eyes and say, I forgive you for trying to be everything for everyone. I thank you for surviving all the things that almost broke you. And most importantly, you tell him or you tell her that I promise you will never have to disappear again to be loved. You will never have to disappear again to be loved. And let's take it even deeper, right? Beneath the woman or the man who's tired of overgiving, beneath the mask of the strong one, beneath the adult that keeps saying I'm fine. Because beneath all of that, right? The heart of this shadow work is that beneath all of those masks, right? All of this persona who we pretend we are, there's a little girl or a little boy still waiting to be chosen. Right? The one who learned early that love had conditions, that affection had to be earned, that safety meant you had to be quiet, that being needed was the closest that you would ever get to being nurtured. And now that you're a grown man or a grown woman, you're still chasing what you never got. Only this time it's through your lovers, your relationships, your friendships, your jobs, the external validation. But that little girl or that little boy is not broken. They're just repeating history, replaying the same story, hoping that the ending will change. You think that you're drawn to unavailable people because you like the chase, but really you're drawn to them because it is familiar. Because your nervous system only recognizes love when it hurts a little bit, when it's uncertain, when it feels like work. But baby, that's not love. That is your inner child saying, this feels like home. I remember this. And that's the heartbreaking truth about trauma, because you start to confuse, what's familiar with safety until you heal what taught you the difference. So when we talk about codependency, we're really talking about that inner child's coping skills, right? The one that learned to earn love by caretaking, to stay small to avoid rejection. That the only way that people would keep you close is if you keep quiet. And so now every time somebody pulls away, every time you feel misunderstood or unappreciated, it's not just you that hurts, but it's the little boy or the little girl inside of you that also feels that. That's why healing is so heavy, right? Because you're not just comforting the adult version of you, but you're also reparenting the child inside of you who's been waiting decades to feel safe. So what does this look like in real life? It's choosing rest when your old self wants to overwork. It's saying no even when you feel guilty. It's letting yourself cry without apologizing for the mess. It is simply saying, I don't have to prove that I'm lovable anymore. Reparenting yourself means becoming the person that your inner child needed. The one who protects your peace. Who listens when scared, right? When your inner child is scared, you listen to them. You remind them that they're safe now. That, that they don't have to beg or chase or perform anymore. And this is the point where you whisper to them, you don't have to shrink to be safe. You don't have to fix anybody to be worthy. You don't have to earn what you already are, which is loved. Because once your inner child feels safe, you will stop seeking chaos. Once your inner child feels seen, you will stop chasing attention. And once they feel loved, you'll stop settling for survival. Thank you, Sheila. And that's when healing gets real, y'all. When you stop dating your triggers and start parenting your pain. The little girl inside of you has waited long enough to exhale. The little boy inside of you has waited long enough to exhale. So exhale. You made it. You're home now. Just breathe. It is your turn to become the safe space that you never had. To teach your inner child that peace doesn't mean isolation. It means integration. It means bringing all of your parts. And when I say all of your parts, I'm talking about the wounded, the wise, the weary. Bringing all of them together and saying we are not at war with ourselves anymore. So today, when you pray, when you journal, or you just sit in silence, I want you to place your hand over your heart and say, I see you, little me. Right? I see you, little me. And you don't have to be perfect for me to love you. And from now on, I promise to love you in ways that no one else knew how to. I promise to love you in a way that only I know how to. So if you want to ride with somebody, I need you to ride with little you. Because that version of you doesn't need perfection. It just needs your presence. It needs you to show up. So you got to have your back. This is the SOS, save ourselves. And, the only way that we can do that is to really start to rebuild, right? We have to rebuild from the ground up because that foundation that we had before, it was sketchy. Y'all know it was sketchy. Every time the wind blew, the foundation would rock. So we have to rebuild things from the ground up. And the way we rebuild things is through our boundaries, right? We have to understand that now that we are healing, we have to be more intentional about who we allow to experience us, because we ain't for everybody. We ain't for the streets, y'all. Okay? So we have to begin to understand that boundaries, the boundaries that we set aren't meant to keep people out, but they are meant to keep us together, to keep us intact. They're not punishment, they're protection. It's not rejection, it is redirection. And when I say redirection, I'm talking about towards peace, not pain. But if you've lived most of your life in survival mode, I fully understand how boundaries can feel like betrayal, because you've been taught that love equals sacrifice and that choosing yourself is selfish. Welcome in, everybody. That's the conditioning that we're unlearning. See, boundaries aren't walls, right? Walls say stay away, don't come in, do not enter. But that's not what boundaries are. Boundaries say, here's how you can stay close to me safely. They're invitations to connect in healthier ways, not weapons to push people out. But I'm not gonna lie, y'all, when y'all first start setting them, right? People are going to test you. They're gonna call you distant. They're gonna say you've changed. They're gonna accuse you of being cold-hearted, selfish, ungrateful, hard to love, and all the other things. And the truth is, you did change. You have changed. You stopped being available to your own destruction. You stopped mistaking tolerance for love. You stopped offering discounts on your energy. So yeah, boundaries are uncomfortable at first because they expose who was only loyal to your lack of having them. So when you say no, you'll learn who respected your presence versus who depended on your compliance. When you stop overextending, you'll notice how quiet it gets. But that quiet, that's not loneliness. That's peace entering the room for the first time in years. And here's what they don't tell you. Boundaries don't just protect your peace. They reveal your people. They help you see who loves you for your essence and who only loved you for your availability. Rebuilding boundaries after years of self-abandonment is a process, y'all. Trust me, I know. Because I lacked boundaries for a good 30, 35 years of my life. And I'm not ashamed to say it. It's saying I love you, but I also love me too. It's realizing that you can hold compassion without carrying their chaos. It's learning that silence isn't distance, it's just discernment. And it's okay if that discernment costs you a few connections, because the ones who are meant for you won't be offended by your healing. They will understand. Some will leave you when you stop catering to their comfort, but you gotta let them go. That exit isn't rejection. As I stated before, it is redirection. If God, if God removes people from your life, stop trying to bring them back, right? Like when he kills things out of your life, stop resuscitating it. Because that thing, that situation, that relationship, the friendship, the job, whatever it is that has ended, that is God's way making room for people and, situations that know how to meet you in peace, not pain. So let's reframe what a boundary really means, right? Because I think boundaries get a bad rap, and they're like my favorite thing. I think teaching people how to set boundaries is ultimately my favorite thing to do. I'm constantly teaching my clients that a boundary isn't a threat. It's a truth. It's not a fence to keep love out. It's a filter to keep toxicity from coming in. It's not a weapon. It's wisdom in motion. Because when you finally start enforcing boundaries, you're not pushing people away. You're actually pulling yourself back home. The version of you that used to over-explain will start saying less. The version of you that used to chase will start choosing. The version of you who used to beg for clarity, beg for love, beg for attention, beg to be seen, will start trusting his or her own discernment. That's right, Cindy. And it's not too late. I think that a lot of us, hey Michelle, I think that a lot of us tend to believe that, oh, I'm older, so, maybe I'm just stuck in this. I'm stuck in the chaos. That what's the point in healing at 40 or 50 or 60 or 70 or 80? It's because you get to, right? It's because you're still here and you still have more chapters. It's because your story is not over. And so as long as you have, breath in your lungs, you deserve that room to breathe. You deserve the opportunity to heal, to love, to forgive, right? To find you again. Because once you start healing, you recognize that you don't owe anyone access to the healed you. I used to think that just because a person had been in my life for so long that I owed myself to them. You don't owe anyone access to the healed version of you, especially if they helped break the old you. I forgive you, right? I want you to eat, but I just can't serve you from this table. Because again, if I'm being honest, you were part of the problem. And I'm not saying you were the problem. I'm just simply saying that what we had was part of the problem. And so as you start healing, you stop sending energy to dead end conversations and you start redirecting it into your growth, your peace, your joy. And so that's what boundaries do for us. Boundaries are how you teach the world how to treat you. But more importantly, they're how you teach you that you matter. Hey, Danny. And when you finally build those boundaries on self-respect instead of resentment, they won't feel like defense anymore. They'll start to feel like freedom. So here's your reminder. You don't need permission to protect your peace. You don't need approval to honor your limits. And you don't need guilt to guide your giving. Boundaries are your love language to yourself. And you deserve to be fluent in that language. So it is time for you to reclaim your peace. Reclaim your reflection, that person that is in the mirror in front of you. Reclaiming your reflection is what happens when the dust settles, right? After the storm of people pleasing has passed and, the noise of everybody else's chaos quiets down, you finally get to meet yourself without the performance. It's strange at first, right? To wake up and realize that you have no one left to please but yourself. To know what you like, what you want, what you enjoy. Because for so long, your identity has been wrapped in being what everyone else needed you to be. But this is the sacred part of healing. This is the rebuild, right? This is the renaissance of you. When you start reclaiming your reflection, you begin to see how much beauty was buried under all of that pretending. Where you used to be afraid to take the mask off, you welcome taking it off now, because you can see the beauty that has been buried underneath. You remember the girl who used to laugh freely, right? The one who had ideas before he or she was told to stay in their lane. The soul that used to move without permission. If I'm being honest, at first, rediscovery feels like recovery. Because learning yourself is like a new language. You know? So when you learn a new language, of course, you're going to stutter a little. You're going to guess. You're going to mix some things up. Right? But you try again. And that's okay. Right? Broad Pod, welcome in. It's okay. You're not lost. You're just learning your way back home. Welcome back, Rick. And as you're learning your way home, you're going to start to notice little things. Oh, hey, Portia. You're going to start to notice little things. How peaceful it feels to eat alone without your phone. How freeing it is to say no without explaining. Because, y'all, that's my favorite thing to do. No is a complete sentence, asked and answered. But you'll also start to realize how powerful it feels to walk away from chaos without needing closure. You start choosing joy over justification. Solitude over settling. Peace over proving. And as you do that, the reflection in the mirror will begin to shift. You'll stand taller. Your eyes will look softer, but stronger. And you'll recognize that you're not desperate for validation anymore, that you are filled with self-recognition. You will wake up every morning and say, I love me. And as I step out here into this world, if somebody else loves me, then baby, that's just a bonus, but I don't need it because my cup is full. In fact, my cup is overflowing. I love me so much that I love y'all too. Y'all thirsty? Here, drink this. But it ends if my cup starts running low because I got to keep my cup full. So I wake up every day and I say, you know what? I love me. God loves me. And if somebody else loves me, like I said, that's a bonus. You will realize that the man or the woman that you were becoming wasn't lost. They were just layered beneath expectation and guilt and shame and survival mode. But now, piece by piece, you've been peeling those layers back. You're rediscovering your rhythm, your laugh, your creativity, your peace. You start dressing for yourself. Cause y'all, that was big for me, right? Literally just going to the closet and picking out what I wanted to wear, not what he thought that I would look good in. Choosing to do my hair in a way that I enjoy, not what I thought he wanted to see. Not only will you start dressing differently, you'll start dreaming again. Dreams that don't revolve around keeping somebody else comfortable. You make choices that align with your truth, not your trauma. And one day you'll catch your reflection, not filtered, not the social media version of you, right? But the raw, unfiltered, soulful you. And then it will hit you. I remember her. I remember him. And that's the moment where you've reclaimed your reflection. Not because life is perfect, right? But because you no longer feel like you have to be perfect. You just get to be. You've traded validation for vision. You've replaced what do they need with what do I deserve? And the answer is simple. You deserve peace, purpose, presence. So when people ask you, who are you now? you can finally say, I'm becoming. Not because, healing isn't going back, but it's more I'm becoming me again. It's about coming home to you. Yes. When you heal unapologetically, the validation of others is a non-factor. Absolutely. And, you are home now, whether you believe it or not. Home in your body, home in your truth, home in your reflection. So we have to begin to, have this love from an overflow. Not emptiness, not fear, not obligation, but abundance. Because when you've spent years loving from lack, this part of healing feels foreign. Peaceful love looks suspicious. Gentle love feels boring. And unconditional love, especially from yourself, feels undeserved. I'm not even going to lie. I've been coaching for 5 years. I've really been intentional on my self-care journey for the last 5 to 6 years. And I am still unlearning things. Yeah, baby, it feels sus, sis, okay? But I am still unlearning things. And I'm thankful and grateful that my husband is patient. He shows me that love is patient, that love is kind, and he's allowing me to unlearn things. And in the process of me unlearning things, it has exposed his mirror to him. He sees me doing my work. So then he's able to look at himself in the mirror and say, well, dag, I got some things I need to unlearn too. And what started as a trauma bond, because we were both going through things in our life. We both had, just toxic relationships in the past. What started as that trauma bond has allowed us to help each other heal. Right? And so what I've learned, again, going through therapy, doing my shadow work and just showing up every day to you guys, being transparent about my healing, is that many of our hearts are still detoxing from survival. Because for years, love came with hidden contracts that said, if I do enough, they'll stay. If I give more, they'll change. If I love them harder, it'll finally feel safe. But you'll start to realize that wasn't love, that was labor. You were pouring from a cup that was cracked, hoping that somebody else's acceptance would just seal the leaks. But no one can fill you from the outside. It's not possible. They could put a Band-Aid on it and it may slow the bleeding down, but nobody can heal you from the outside. Not permanently, not spiritually. And so loving from an overflow means that you've learned how to become your own source of healing. It means that you no longer chase love, you channel it. Right? I don't chase, I attract. It's me waking up and realizing that my peace is my responsibility. My joy is my job. My happiness, that's my business. My worth isn't waiting for someone else to validate me because it was already in my DNA. When you start loving from an overflow, your energy shifts. Like I said, you stop over-explaining and you start observing. You stop proving and you start protecting. You stop chasing and you start choosing. And it's not that you stop loving people. You just stop losing yourself while you do it. You stop mistaking chemistry for compatibility. You stop romanticizing red flags that feel familiar. You stop taking people's potential as a promise. You love from a healed place, not a hopeful one. Because now your love is rooted in wholeness. It's not desperate. It's discerning. It's not transactional. Let me see what I can get. No, it's not about that. It's about the transformation. So when you love from an overflow, you're no longer afraid to walk away from people and relationships and friendships and situations and jobs. You're not afraid to walk away anymore because you understand that peace isn't found in their presence. It is found in your alignment. When you realize that the love that you give others is simply a reflection of the love that you give yourself. Overflow love is patient, not performative. It is generous, but it is guarded by wisdom. It's intimate, but not invasive. It honors boundaries as much as it honors connection. Because you've learned that being open doesn't mean that I have to be available to everything. My heart is open, but it doesn't mean that I have to take everything you try to give me. It means being aligned with what's healthy and reciprocal and real. Thank you. You've outgrown love that drains you. You've outgrown relationships that feel like emotional internships, right? You outgrown proving your worth in spaces that never deserved your presence in the first place. I recognize now that my presence alone is a gift. And if you can't value my presence, me being here, then expect me to no longer be present because I'm out of there. I still have love to give, but I'm no longer giving it at my own expense. I can care deeply without carrying everything. I can hold space for you without holding your pain. That's what maturity looks like, right? Quiet but confident. Empathetic but not enabling. My sister, say that again, right? Because of course we want you to eat. I could just no longer serve you from this table. As Brooks likes when I say, I said what I said, and I said it with authority because I'm finally the authority of me, right? And now that I've reclaimed that, I'm not going back, right? Because I've realized I'm not hard to love. I just needed to learn how to love myself again. I just needed to learn how to love myself enough to never hand someone else the keys to my peace again. Overflow love is not about perfection. It is simply about presence. It's about choosing to show up for yourself first so that everything you give to others comes from wholeness, not from wounds. So the next time you find yourself falling in love, I want you to ask yourself, am I giving from an overflow or emptiness? Because love built on an overflow expands both people. But love built on emptiness eventually erases one. You deserve the kind of love that matches your healing, not manipulates your hope. The kind that adds to your peace, not threatens it. The kind that feels like home, not another place to survive in. So before we close, I just want you to take a breath with me. Just slow down, take a breath. And I'm talking about a real one this time, y'all. Breathe in through your nose. Out from your mouth. Again, y'all, not the kind that you take in between, responsibilities. Not the kind that you take before answering somebody else's question. I want you to take a breath that belongs entirely to you. I want you to inhale peace. Exhale pressure. Inhale truth. And exhale pretending. And while we're in this stillness, I just want you to reflect. I want you to think about how many times have you handed pieces of yourself away just to be halfway loved. I want you to think about how many times you shrunk your light to make somebody else comfortable. Thank you. How many times have you called it love when it was really fear? And when I say fear, fear of being alone, fear of being forgotten, fear of being too much. And then I want you to ask yourself this question. Who am I when I'm not who they needed me to be? Because that's the real work. Rediscovering the version of you that doesn't revolve around anybody else's validation. The version that existed before the heartbreak, before the people pleasing, before the pretending. I promise you, he or she is still in there, buried beneath all the noise, waiting for you to come home. So take a moment, picture them. What does he look like? What does she look like? How does she walk? What lights him up when nobody else is watching? Because that's the version of you that healing is calling forward. Not a new person, just a remembered one. Now, think about what you've learned on this journey. That love doesn't have to hurt to be holy. That peace doesn't require permission. That you don't have to earn your existence. You get to just be. Right? I want you to release the need to prove your worth through pain. I want you to no longer chase what drains you. I pray that you are no longer available for love that cost you your peace. To understand that it is okay to learn to love yourself in real time, gently, consistently, without apology. You are whole. You are home. You are enough. You've always been enough. You will always be enough. You don't need to go back and fix the version of you that lost his or herself trying to be loved. You just need to understand that he or she was doing the best that they could with what they knew at the time, and honor them by doing things differently now. Because that's what healing is. Not forgetting the pain, but refusing to let it define your patterns. It's a quiet courage to say, I still believe in love, but this time I'm starting with me. So as you guys move through the rest of this week, I want you to be intentional about how you speak to yourself. Catch the moments when you're shrinking yourself, and I want you to remind yourself, no, I don't have to disappear to be desired. I don't have to be perfect to be worthy. And I don't have to chase what's aligned to stay. You've done enough proving. Now it's time to practice peace, to stand in your truth, and to love yourself the way that you always hoped somebody else would. Because this is your season of self-return. And you deserve every ounce of overflow that is coming your way. You've spent years trying to be chosen, but this season is about choosing you. You don't need to earn the right to rest. You don't need to audition for peace. You don't need to convince anyone else that you are worthy, because you already are. Always have been, always will be. And I know what it's like to forget yourself while you're fighting to be loved, to give and give and give until you are empty. Try to call it commitment, to stay in places that keep you small because you're afraid of being labeled selfish. But self-love isn't selfish. It's sacred. It is saying that I can love you and still not lose me in the process. That I can wish you well, but I also need to wish myself peace. It's realizing that your healing doesn't require their apology. It is requesting your permission. So, real love is the kind that is rooted in peace, not performance, guys. It will never ask you to betray your boundaries to prove your devotion. It will never require you to shrink so someone else can feel big. It will never call you, cold, right? It won't confuse your calm with cold or your silence as a punishment. It will honor your growth. It will respect your softness, and it will recognize your worth. So if you find yourself standing alone after setting your boundaries, I want you to stand tall, because peace often looks like solitude before it looks like support. You are not the version of yourself that had to keep settling for survival. You are now this healed version of you, this healing version of you that is finally ready to live. And you have to understand that the people, the opportunities, and the love that match your healed frequency will always find its way to you. Not because you begged it to, but because you became what you were looking for. So as you step into this next chapter, I just pray that you remember this, that the version of you who lost himself or lost herself trying to be loved didn't fail. They forged the version of you that is speaking truth now. That version of you, that little boy, that little girl, walked so you could breathe freely today. And you need to honor them by living, not surviving, not rehashing the old wounds, but by living. And when you look in the mirror, don't rush past your reflection. Look into your eyes and say, I am proud of you. Hey girl, hey. I see you. You made it through everything that tried to break you. To date, you have 100% survived every single weapon that was formed against you, that tried to destroy you. You don't owe anybody a smaller version of you. You just owe yourself space to grow. You owe yourself the room to breathe. So take your power back. Take your peace back. Take your reflection back. Because you've been borrowed long enough. It's time that you belong to yourself again. Now, before we part ways, let me leave you all with a little love and light. Because, honey, I feel like we done gone for far too long in this conversation. But I had to get that off my chest, y'all. As always, I encourage you to keep breathing through the highs, the lows, and every moment in between. I want you to keep choosing peace, even if it feels just out of reach. And to know that here at the Self-Care Club, you will always be seen, always valued, and always supported. So don't be afraid to take up space, speak your truth, and make a little room for you to breathe. I love each and every one of you to life. And I'm praying that your day is not just amazing, but aligned, intentional, and of course, on purpose, filled with purpose. This has been another Room to Breathe podcast, and I cannot wait to connect with you all soon. If you are seeking more resources, I encourage you to check out our digital home at theselfcareclub.org. That way you can tap in on all of the resources that are available and, just access the tools to help you grow. I look forward to, like I said, connecting with you all again soon. Remember, tomorrow's Friday, and we will only be available on YouTube tomorrow. So I encourage everybody, if you're not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, to head over there to YouTube and you search for Room to Breathe Project. Same as the name here. Same name on all social media platforms, y'all. But Fridays are exclusive to YouTube. We have an interview tomorrow with Sophie Ash, and we're going to talk about setting boundaries around your business. It's a really great conversation, so I hope you guys join us tomorrow. 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and y'all, Fridays start at 9 on the dot. So I suggest you get there at 8:55 a.m. Pull up your seat, join us in the chat, and we will keep healing out loud. So go be great, y'all. I will see you guys tomorrow on YouTube, and we'll be back on TikTok and Facebook on Monday. Okay? Thank you, guys.